Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RPO Leadership Forum webinar series presented by the Recruitment Process Outsourcing Association and our RPOA members. This is Lamis Aburama, host of the program. On today's webinar, I'm delighted to welcome a new guest speaker, John Fitzgerald, President of LevelUp Human Capital Solutions, a Silver RPOA member. John will help us decode AI and understand the impact of artificial intelligence on talent acquisition. As a technology person, I am excited to hear John's presentation. We do invite you to ask questions and engage during the webinar. Share your thoughts, your questions, and your takeaways. We'll take them as they come and at the end of the webinar. With that, it is my pleasure to welcome John to the virtual lectern. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you, Lamise. I really appreciate it, and welcome everybody for attending and hopefully getting into a pretty healthy discussion towards the end of this. And as Lamise said, please, enter your questions, your chats up above, and then at the end, we'll have a time to talk about it. But to be quite honest, this topic can be discussed for much longer than 30 minutes that we have. So I do want to let people know I'm happy to connect with anyone, virtually, or if in New York City and want to grab a coffee or lunch, happy to go a little bit deeper than that. And I'd like to just thank all the people who met with me to talk about AI, and how they're using it and how they're planning to use it, because I think we have everybody here because they're quite understanding that AI is very much top of mind at the moment. And I'll dig in a little bit about the impacts of artificial intelligence on talent acquisition, both the really exciting stuff. So for those of you who know me and know that I love to geek out on technology, there's a lot of great things about AI, but also with this new advanced technology, there's a lot of things to really think about a little bit more than just the intended benefits. And we'll go into that all in just a bit. So for today, we have an agenda that talks about the evolution of AI. So AI has been here for a bit, and we'll go into what AI and the journey of it. How is it really being utilized today? And then really talk about some of those pitfalls I talked about, really those limitations and concerns, and how do we put guardrails around AI to ensure that it really meets its exciting promise that we all have about it. We'll talk a little bit about how at LevelUp we're optimizing the candidate experience with our investments in AI, and then wrap up with just a summary of what are their future holds for AI and what are some of the trends that we've all been seeing, and how do we take advantage of it. So, as I said, AI has been around for a good amount of time. It's taken some moments for us to be able to really hone in on what it can do. And in many years ago, I had many conversations about AI with vendors and people who were investing in it. And at the time, it really was the future and the promise of AI is much greater than the actual benefit that it can have at that time. And I think what we're seeing now is the evolution of AI as it came across, which was resume screening and candidate matching, which is really now part of any AI simplification into an ATS. And then we started seeing how it automatically parses resumes, it extracts relevant information. We're able to rank people based on their qualifications and fit for the job. So we've been really seeing how that's been maturing over a decade now, and how that is really kind of the standard that you see whenever you see AI being talked about. Then it moved into the AI-powered video interview platform. And that really had a lot of traction on the ability to really use videos to help expedite the process and the simple questions you want to answer. But also it started getting a little bit complex at that point, started using facial expressions, voice tones, the choice of words, and then it started adding a layer of assessments. And that's where AI started to get some questions about, what is this intention and how does it, benefit us, but also where are some of the protections? And a little bit we'll talk about some of the issues we've seen around interview platforms and, what we can do and what has been taken place to make sure that the benefit that I want to happen is still there while protecting people. And then simple AI chatbots, right? So how can you answer the questions that candidates may have after hours? How can they take a look at where they are around, the status of where they are in the process? And so that was really moving. And then now where we are today is, how can AI be used to benefit us from a diversity and inclusion standpoint? How can it help us identify diverse candidates and even mitigate the biases that we've seen in job postings, in the resume screening process, and the candidate evaluation process? So again, I think everybody's trying to see that the promise of AI is moving, and what we're now feeling is the promise has really shifted to it's here. And the question is the velocity of, what does it mean about being here? How fast does it move? Where does it go from here? What else can AI do for us? And it's exciting. Again, like I said, the geek in me loves this and really can't wait to implement it. But at the same time, we need to make sure that there's guardrails in place, that it's truly benefiting people and organizations. Because we've also seen is unintended consequences. And those unintended consequences are really when I talk about the limitations and concerns, and how do we take a risk view about using this new technology. And there's also a lot of concerns about, will this technology replace people? I guess the answer is probably yes. But more often it's going to replace how we do certain things, and then be replaced with hopefully more value added activities. And this is not a new thought, right? It's been out there for some time. But I use the example of, we used to all ride around in horses, and, behind there was a person picking up the debris. That job doesn't exist anymore. Now we have gas stations and we have mechanics and so forth that couldn't have been thought about, many, many, many years ago. Same thing today. There's going to be different ways we work, and there will be different jobs probably opening up that we can't even really think about. We just saw an article where, the AI developers and the type of compensation that they can get, and the race of bringing them in-house, and how do we leverage that? It's obviously going to bring in, different roles and different emphasis. And so that's why things just change. Now the question is how quickly do we as individuals adapt to that change? So when we talk about AI, it's how can it be used? And it could be used in many different business facets. Within HR, there can be 1,000 different ways that AI is being used, and we can spend another half an hour talking about it. Today, we're just going to focus on within talent acquisition, just within that space. How is AI being used, and what are some of the limitations and concerns we need to place on that? So when we take a look at how is it being used today, we talked about the candidate selection and matching process. It's in all of our ATSs. It's the ability to really take a job description, return it against the candidate's database, and what are the likely matches? How strong are they? What can we do? And that provides a huge value to our recruiters, right? So they're able to take a look at the candidates that fit the role, probably the best, and then start messaging them and looking at them. And that's been around for some time, and so it's nothing really revolutionary. Within candidate sourcing, it's now looking at taking the vast amount of publicly available information that's out there on candidates, creating these profiles, and then taking a look and saying, okay, which one of these that you may or may not have in your database are really good candidates based on the needs of that position or an organization. It also can tell is, are passive candidates more open to taking a recruiter call or outreach than others, right? And the AI allows them to make some predictions or some analysis on what that would be, and that allows us to really identify on those passive candidates that may be ready for an outreach, and that's really an exciting component to AI. And then it's the natural language processing and sentiment analysis that we're using on video interviews, that are really interesting in returning candidates' responses and behaviors. And what we've seen there is, a significant amount, right, especially with COVID, use of video interviewing, whether it's like this and people are making the assessments, or now how can we kind of put together some of the basic questions that we want to ask people, have them answer them. We can review it after hours, and what do we want to do in pushing people forward. And that's where there's been a lot of concerns about the types of predictions and the types of use of this technology. Is it in fact, creating some different types of biases? Is it in fact able to take a look at human emotions properly? And this is where, there's an excitement around it, but also, a lot more concerns. And then there's even the assessment component. So, how can AI take a look at people's responses and find out, is there any suspicious scoring going on, or is there plagiarism? Is this a past scoring amount that some other candidates have provided? So as we're using some assessments, I'm trying to stay away from using vendor names because I don't want to be seen as pushing one vendor to another. There is a lot of use of assessments happening, and that is also one of the concerns we have, is the models within those assessments. And even though they can provide some suspicious scoring, they still do score nonetheless. And what does that mean in regards to how it's being scored, and what are some of the potential biases in that scoring algorithm? Automating time-consuming tasks, that's one of the biggest components that we're seeing. So we talked about parsing resumes, we talked about the matching. We can also update the profiles automatically. So if something happens within the public realm, and the candidates in the system, it can be automatically be updated. It could send out the rejection emails when a position is filled. I mean, all the things that have been existing for some time. And as you think about what we can automate, it very much can happen. So our technology teams have been fast working on all of those ways to take those routine tasks and automate them. But it's also now improving the candidate experience, because we're taking a look at it and saying, okay, what does a hiring manager want to know, and when, and how do we push that information if we have it available? When does a candidate need to be contacted or kept warm? Or when do they need to be learning about a certain aspect in the recruitment process, and how do we message them information about the organization or the people they're meeting? And I think by us focusing on the candidate experience and the automation, we're able to make sure that that stuff is happening within trigger points and milestones. And that's really improving the candidate experience, because they're getting it on a set period. You don't have to worry about, did a human remember it? Did it get, sent? Did it not get sent? Everything gets logged and everything gets there. So we're really seeing an improvement in the candidate experience. The next 2 points are really more, I'll call it like here, but future based. How do I identify patterns for future performers, and how does that help improve hiring decisions? And it's a bit scary. Like, we've all been able to say, wouldn't it be great if we can predict what an excellent employee would be versus an average employee? But how many of us have come across people who started out as excellent and ended out sort of in a flame out situation? And there's a lot of reasons for that is hard to predict. Things happen in people's lives that impact them, that take away from their focus, or the job role changes, or the organizational strategy changes and shifts away from people. So yes, at that point in time, they may be able to predict that, but there's a lot more that is unpredictable and probably not in the models. And those are some concern points about identifying patterns in future performance. Would we start seeing too much commonality in the types of traits and characteristics people have if we're identifying, the patterns? Like, so if we take people who are performing well today and we use that as the basis, do they all then start, having the same type of skills and characteristics, and then losing diversity? And I'm not just meaning diversity of gender and ethnicity and so forth, but also skills and education, and, seeing things one way versus the other, and having that good debate amongst humans that allow us to get into a strong end result. So there's a lot of excitement around the ability to improve our hiring decisions through technology. And there's always going to be some level of improvements that we can make, because as we all know, recruiting has a good amount of subjectivity within it, and some underlying biases that happen on what we like and how we feel about people. but it's never going to be automated, and it should not be automated. And I'm not saying that because I want my job forever. What I'm saying is, automation of a process like this is going to take that human connection out. It's going to put too much risk on an organization. There's a lot more valuable insights that we can glean. If we look at baseball as an example, there's a good reliance on analytics, but there's also a good reliance on what the manager understands about their staff at that day, at that point, that might have happened. I don't think the model knows that somebody's hamstring got tweaked the night before and maybe needs to sit down. So there's a lot within technology that is great. It's what gets me completely excited about it, which makes me want to, spend more time reviewing what we can do and implement and seeing the benefits of it. And it's huge. And we need to embrace AI. And AI is here. We need to figure it out. So don't get me wrong when I say I'm extremely excited about what AI can do. But in the next page, we really do have to focus on really what's beneath the surface of this. What do we need to understand about AI? And the devil's really in the details. We need to make sure that there's a sort of an ethical responsibility that we have, and that we're working really closely with our data privacy and security, and that we really understand who's writing the code. What's the governance around AI development and the organization? Is the code transparent and easily understandable? Can we take a look at it? Because with the New York City Local Law 144, they put into place a great thing about independent audits are to be conducted. In order to do an audit, you need to be able to understand the code. It needs to be easily understandable, transparent, and aware of what it is. There's been plenty of issues around technology already that has been, highly public. So, for example, one of my friends and mentors, Nancy Jones, reminded me about the Apple Card, how there were concerns about negative impact on women applications and the credit limits applied to women. At the end of the day, it was reviewed by many regulators and deemed to be okay, but there was obviously a big perception around that. And what does that look like? And I don't believe that anybody within writing that code or their business plans set forth to positively impact one and negatively impact another part of the demographics. And then we know a well-known video interview and assessment system had to end the use of facial analysis, actually due to the concerns about the transparency of the code and the impact that it could have on hiring decisions. So I keep on just really emphasizing the fact that there's beauty in the AI. There's a huge benefit from it, but there's also just unintended consequences because this technology is so new. And in some of it, it learns from itself. And if it learns from itself from not enough diversity in the code, or not enough, test data, or not enough detailed information that it's pulling from, and it's only kind of learning one way, it's going to go down one path. And that's why there needs to be, good testers, good auditors, good governance programs around it, constant oversight, constant tweaking. It's not just set it and forget it type technology. And unfortunately for us as HR professionals and employers, the laws are saying that it's upon us to make sure that the AI is meeting what it is. So we're not the developers. We're not the coders. We probably couldn't even spot an effective line of code versus an ineffective line of code. But what it says is the employers need to ensure that there is no discriminations or any biases happening within the AI that we're utilizing. So it means we have to have really strong conversations with our vendors. Our legal teams need to be connected. Our systems teams need to be connected. We need to understand not only what's in it today, but what are they looking to do in the future with their AI? We need to be getting our hands on their audits and really reading them and understanding them. We need to explain to them the importance of what they're doing to our business. And the interesting thing about the New York City law is that it doesn't cover everything, right? It protects the job applicants. So for firms like LevelUp, where we do a lot of outbound recruiting, that law does not apply to any AI that is for outbound candidate reach outs. Could that change down the road? Potentially, right? But today, it really focuses on those job applicants, as the EEOC has a lot of emphasis on applications and the support of people who are applying, and those laws have been in effect for some time. This is just a new means to make sure that there's protection over what already exists because there's a new technology around it. So it's really important as HR professionals and TA professionals that we don't just get excited about what the AI can do for us and how we can spend some more time on the value added work that we all want to spend time on. We need to be risk managers as well. We need to understand what is the organization's risk tolerance, what is the strategy, and understand how and where AI should be used in the TA space. Because it should not be used, as I said, end to end. It should not be something that is just put out and all recruiters are now having to find new jobs. What it should do is augment what we do, make us better recruiters, make us be able to spend more time with our people, candidates, hiring managers, our clients, in order to have, good strategic conversations around the skills, the competencies that we need, and how do we develop that. So make sure there's plenty of human involvement along the recruiting process. Be transparent. Make sure that we receive candidate consent along the AI. So that's one of the big changes is we need to tell our candidates when we're using AI, how we're using AI, and they should be having an opportunity to, opt in or opt out of the use of the AI in their process. So there's a lot more that we need to focus on rather than I have a job description, I get a candidate, I make the hire, right? There's so much more complexity now with how you do all of that. How are we protecting ourselves? How are we protecting our clients? How are we protecting our own organization? So yes, AI will definitely benefit us, but AI could have its unintended consequence, and that requires a very strong governance. So even ChatGPT, my friend Chatty, as we call him here, states that it's essential to use AI responsibly and ethically, ensuring that it doesn't perpetuate existing biases and that candidates' privacy is respected. AI should augment the human decision-making process rather than replacing it entirely, as hiring decisions should still involve human judgment and empathy. So even the AI says it. So really what it means is the coders of the AI say it. So it's very important that we recognize that human involvement is important. And then just moving over to what we're doing here with LevelUp, it's really much focusing the candidate experience, but also our client experience at the same time. So what we're hearing is the pain points are how do we locate qualified candidates? How do we help them with the emphasis of DE and I? How do we make sure we engage diverse candidates that they haven't been able to see before to improve their own diversity demographics within their organization? Ensure that the brand is protected. And a lot of organizations are really focusing on their EVP and how that's being demonstrated in the marketplace, and how can technology even further that and reach different people in different ways. So for us, our tech stack and as we've been building it and designing it and continually evaluating it is really around that experience. How do we address those pain points that are most important? And in order to do that, some part of it is about the effectiveness of our recruiters. How quickly can they get to the value added components to the process? So connecting with the candidates in our database, how are we able to quickly identify passive candidates, connect with them, screen them, get them active in the process, get them really excited about the opportunities that our clients are offering them. How do we be able to use those tools to really demonstrate our ability to bring in all those diverse candidates so that they can find the right person for the right role and see different people than they have 10 years ago, 5 years ago. The technology has really advanced much that we can get into some of those hard to find labor pools. Also, how can we remove identified candidate data? So some organizations are at a maturity point where they just do not want names. They don't want to have certain types of information on the submissions so that it's sort of looked at just on the merit of the type of experiences, skills, and competencies. So we're able to provide that privacy assurance with our technology. We're able to obviously automate a lot of the outreach that we talked about. We work with our clients who are using our technology to say, what are the brand messages you want? How do you want it? Working very much with their marketing teams and their HR teams and their leaders to make sure that we are a means of connecting to the talent base for them and passing those key messages along. As recruiters are very much part of the fabric of an organization, and really automate the cultivation of all those applicants that are happening. Part of it is automation, but part of it really is just the human power to be able to look through it and get through it. And again, not just say good, bad, but the messages behind the good, bad. I've always said, bad candidates have good friends. So how you treat them matter. So even looking at volumes of applicants, how you treat an applicant who may not be good for one role could potentially be good for another, or they may know somebody who is going to be a good applicant or a good passive candidate that we outreach. If they had a good experience and the word of mouth goes, that really matters. So a lot of people are just worried about the how do I just communicate? It's the how you communicate. It's the quality of that communication that we have to focus on. And again, that requires some human intervention. Maybe sooner or later, the quality of the written will be better than what we can do, but it still requires some oversight. And then milestone checkpoints and reminders. How are you doing? How is your interview process? Is there any information that you need? Those types of checkpoints and reminders are really important, especially on the onboarding process. There are ways to make sure that people still feel excited once they said yes before they get there, and how we use our technology, but also our people really matter. So even though we're talking about the tech stack, there is still an involvement of human that we talk about in here, because it's really important to not just completely automate a program, but know when to use the automation and when there should be a human contact. So that's really important. And that's how we're really looking at our tech stack and how we're trying to provide value to our clients in with this new technology. And then finally, really embracing the future of AI. So there's going to be continued developments of its capabilities. It's going to have a significant growth and change of our job functions, both on the technical side. I've talked about the legal, the risk, the audit, the oversight. There'll be newer problems as it comes to vendor risk management. There'll be newer roles as it gets this independent audit and bias reviews. With assessments, it used to be about validity and discrimination testing. I think that still continues, but there's just new ways of taking a look at it. And a lot of the laws are great, but they don't provide a sort of line in the sand of this is a good statistical return, this is a bad statistical return. So there's a lot of discretion that people need to make. And that's when I talk about the risk tolerance. You need to understand your risk tolerance. What is a good percentage of a result on the audit versus not, and because there's not a written law that says it needs to be 3%, 5%, 15%, understanding what your own risk tolerance is going to be very important. And that obviously takes a lot of conversations and a lot of people to have an opinion on it. And really making sure that the transparency and the ethical changes are there, and that the employee experience is at the forefront, and that we're really understanding that we're trying to make a positive impact and ensure that that AI investment that we're all making comes into that. And then how do we adapt AI into our company and our organization, our systems? It's easy to say the word AI. It's easy to investigate. It's easy to just use ChatGPT on its own, but how do you integrate that into the ecosystem? And what does that look like? And so I think there's a lot here within the future of AI. There's a lot about predictive analysis. There's a lot I talk about the decision making. And I think there's even more around AI that we just don't know. And it's that unknown that for me is extremely exciting, the geek. But then as I dug into this topic, the unknown is also something a little bit more scary as it comes to what can it do about the reputation to my organization? What could it do about the reputation of the client that I'm representing? What can it do representation of me as the recruiter? So we really need to be on top of the AI evolution and ensure that we have strong oversight. But I would still embrace it because it has a lot of positive aspects. So the presentation part is over. Again, happy to represent Level Up in this conversation. Happy to represent the RPOA. So thank you very much. If there are any questions from the audience, I'm happy to take it.
Sounds good. And John, we do have a few questions, and I encourage participants as well to put additional questions in the chat or the Q&A. The question is, what would you suggest as a good strategy for AI-created candidate reach out via email? How do we ensure the message is personalized and resonate with candidates we want to connect with?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question because it talks about the balance between AI generating the message versus the human oversight of that message and ensuring that it makes sense before it gets released. So I think you can definitely use AI to generate the messages, and that capability is out there today, and many of the systems are able to do that. But even those vendors say before you just generate and send, look at it, make sure it's got the right information, make sure there's no problems. I can tell you I get a tremendous amount of AI generated campaigns, some of which I'm like, wow, that is absolutely effective, and it actually feels like a human, even though I know it's not, but it feels like it is, and I interact with it. I'm like, I'd love to meet you to learn about that. Others get my name wrong. Others don't have my name. Others have the field name in it. So really, that's the oversight. You can tell who is actually looking at it as human intervention versus generate, send. So like I tell a lot of, I coach, I tell a lot of people, like, the name on your back matters and how you conduct yourself matters. Well, your name is on that message. So you might as well review it and make sure it matters and it's right.
Sounds great. Another question, what potential challenges or limitations should organizations be aware of when adopting AI in recruitment?
Can you rephrase that, because I was reading a different question, so sorry, go ahead.
The question is regarding limitations or challenges organizations should be aware of when adopting AI.
Well, I think the major challenge is really making sure that there's extensive amount of testing before the AI goes into implementation. Are you happy with the results? Is it going to protect your brand? Is it going to return the benefit that you want without having the unintended consequences that I talked about, which is, potential, bias or discrimination within what it's doing. But it's something that I highly recommend everybody looks into, because I believe because this heightened awareness of what could go wrong is really driving enough concern that as it gets developed, it's getting developed in a thoughtful way, and that as it gets developed and it iterates, there is a check and balance point. So I think you really need to, investigate, but then also trust at some point. But then again, like I said, have that risk tolerance. If it returns something you're not liking, you need to be willing to turn it off for a period of time.
Sounds great. And John, I don't know if it's fair to ask this next question because it's more around global recruitment, but we'll see what we can do. How do you apply basically AI for global recruitment?
It works really well with a vast amount of information. So, the more you can put through it, I think the quicker it can get through it. The question then is really looking at the AI from a regulatory or legal standard at each country, and region, because it could be very different, and that's what we're seeing is the first one was, like New York City and others, and we know there's going to be more and more regulation put on it, and how does it work with existing GDPR and other data privacy. So AI will help globally for sure, but you have to look at it from a regional lens and perspective to make sure that it's it's being utilized effectively. So for example, assessments have been around for a long time. the use of assessments is very different in certain regions and countries because of the laws around it. So nobody disagrees with the benefit that assessments can have, but because of the regulations and laws, it is limited in certain countries than others, and AI will follow the same pattern.
I'll provide this perspective, and I don't know if it's very applicable, but my recent travel to Spain, I had to take my son to the doctor, and he used this translation tool, and in time, basically, it's amazing how much these AI tools can pick up different accents, different dialects. Catalonia, for example, is different Spanish than others, and it works very effectively. So that might be an example of where AI can be used in global recruitment. One more question, maybe, and we.
Yeah, I see Adam's question. It's a really great question around the regulation trends and whispers and the impact it could have in the next 1 to 5 years. Admittedly, I'm not a regulatory fan. I'm going to put that out there. But what I'm hearing is there's going to be as I talk about the velocity of AI coming, I think there's going to be maybe an over velocity of regulations that are coming because of the fear of what it can have. So what I'm a little worried about is where we stand in regards to how much do we put guardrails around AI versus how long do we suppress AI until we fully trust it and let it go. We can have a great conversation around autonomous vehicles. And should they really be fully autonomous or semi-autonomous, right? Fully autonomous gets into a accident, who's at fault? Semi-autonomous, it's still, within the driver. So there's a lot of balance we need to find around regulation. And then, and I get the feeling with the whispers and everything is everybody's trying to kind of show how great they are as legal experts and regulators, and I think we're going to see a lot of that before it starts to figure out where it lands.
Well, fantastic, and you are right, John. We need more than 30 minutes for this.
Sorry about that. I could speak a lot too.
As I said, I think we need to bring you back and have more in-depth conversation. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. If you want to give me 2 more minutes, I do have quick announcements from the RPOA for some upcoming events and so forth. And for audiences who might be new to the RPOA, the Recruitment Process Outsourcing Association is a member-driven and mission-driven organization serving the global RPO ecosystem and striving to be the place to go for RPO. The RPO ecosystem consists of different players. Our mission is to nurture a collaborative community where thought leadership can be created and curated to educate the marketplace about RPO. Our corporate members and technology sponsors provide the primary funding for the association. Our community membership is free and open to everyone interested in the RPO space. We also have some strategic partners that add value to our members, including Everest Group, IDC, and Clearly Rated. The RPOA produces educational content in collaboration with corporate members. Our content is focused on talent acquisition trends and best practices for the talent acquisition community. We host 2 active blogs, produce a monthly newsletter, and 2 webinar programs. First, the RPO Leadership Forum is a monthly webinar series scheduled for the 3rd Tuesday of each month. These are 30-minute webinars presented by RPOA members. Today's webinar is part of the series. Next month, we have a Clear Edge Marketing present a webinar on marketing and prioritizing for efforts for 2024. You can find upcoming events on our RPOA website under the Events tab. Our second webinar program is the RPOA Expert Panel, and we typically produce 3 to 4 expert panels a year. You can access webinar recordings and other content through the RPO Academy on the RPOA website at rpoassociation.org. We're also excited to announce the launch of Time to Hire, a new podcast based on the content from our webinar programs, meaning you'll have the option to watch webinars live and on demand. In addition, you can listen to the webinars on the go via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. So subscribe to Time to Hire and stay informed of all new podcast releases. Innovation is a core value for the RPOA. Another innovation that we're excited to introduce is the iCoco Marketplace. We're building this online tool to be the Airbnb for RPO. It's where you'll find RPO providers, consultants, technology solutions, and other service providers for recruiting. If you are a tech company interested in reaching the RPO market, you need to be on the iCoco Marketplace, and I invite you to reach out and chat with us. Lastly, I want to invite you to our premium event of the year and the only place you'll meet the largest community of people passionate about RPO. The annual RPOA conference this year will be in Chicago on September 24th through the 26th, and you're all invited. Registration is now open on the RPOA website, and we hope you can join us. With this brief overview of the RPOA, I'd like to conclude today's webinar, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Please stay connected, stay engaged, and stay informed of what's happening in the talent and RPO world by tuning into the RPOA, the place to go for RPO. Thank you all for being a wonderful audience, and I want to thank our speaker, John, for a wonderful presentation, very informative.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.